Good evening, everyone. Thank y'all for being here today with us. We are here with some very amazing gentlemen who I knew throughout the community. Well, actually, I just met Mark, so I can't tell that truth. But Barbara Luther Gray, I've been knowing for, what, 20, 30 years at least? For a long time, but a short time, and a good time. So we're gonna do some introductions. So if you can take a moment, I'll start with you, Luther Gray, the great and amazing Luther Gray of Bambula 2000. Y'all heard of Bambula 2000? Yeah. If you don't know Bambula 2000, it's an amazing percussion group, dancers. They have dancers as well. They do jazz fest every year, festivals every year. Have amazing energy and spirit that they bring to the stage that represents the culture of New Orleans. And I'm just putting in my words, but of course I want you to do an introduction of yourself and what you'd like the people to know about you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here this evening at the John Scott. This is a beautiful place it tells the story of our people. And I think, the thing about, I guess with being in New Orleans, I wasn't born in New Orleans, I was born in Chicago. And so the thing about it was I applied for a job at Illinois Bell, but they weren't hiring. They said they were hiring in the South, like in Louisiana, like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or Shreveport. So I said, well, New Orleans. I had read about Congo Square when I was in high school. And so more than a coincidence that I ended up being here like over 30 years. And so when I first got I said, where is Congo Square? That's what I wanted to find out. And so a lot of my life was like pursuing, where is Congo Square? What is Congo Square? And what's so beautiful was this morning, there were two groups of people. One of Gilly Geechee folks came from, they were in town. Another group from northern Louisiana, they were in town. And they called us to come to Congo Square. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning. So we having all this going on at Congo Square at 9 o'clock in the morning. All these three different, ways of looking at the world. And so at the end of it, we all doing second line around the park, everything. We're looking at all the sculptures. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this place, about New Orleans and Congo Square, because it's really the roots of our people and our history.
You stand as the president for Congo Square Preservation Society?
Say what?
You're the president of Congo Square Preservation Society.
Co-president.
Co-president.
Right.
Yeah. So
Jamila, Peter, Muhammad, myself. We got everybody from Congo Square. Stand up. They got to stand up. Stand
up. Represent. See, yes. No,
I told them, anything I can't answer, y'all take it over.
If you haven't been to Congo Square on Sunday, every Sunday at 4 p.m. is the time. 3. Oh, so it's at 3. I'm sorry, thank you.
Right.
3 p.m. to 6. Yeah. 3 to 6, there's a drum circle. It's an amazing drum circle. It's a community drum circle. You come out with your drum, or there's drums there. Barbara Luther brings drums, extra drums. You could come and sit in and really start to feel the vibration that is in that area, what it means. Do you want to say something else? Okay. So now I want to introduce Martin Payton. Mark Payton. And I just asked you, Mark Payton is the uncle of Nicholas Payton. Y'all know who Nicholas Payton is? No? Famous jazz artist, like very famous. Really good. Okay, look him up. Y'all can thank me later and say, oh, thank you. All right, so this is the uncle. But beyond that, being an uncle, you are an amazing visual artist. And I said that correctly? Like a sculptor.
A big sculptor, yeah.
A man of crafting. Like you get stuff from what I read, you get stuff from the junkyard or scraps, and you make art. So what people think is trash, you make it to something beautiful. So,
Well,
talk about it.
that's debatable, I guess. I'm here because my first language, like a lot of people, was the visual language. I mean, before I could write or read or any of that stuff, I was making marks, and it wasn't connected to anything. It was just my impulse. I learned later that there are many different learning styles, and some people they do that with their ears. They're communicating is oral, and at the top they become musicians. With other people, they're about movement, and they become athletes and like that. Right. So for me, it was visual. Some people it's conceptual. They're writers and like that. Me, it was visual, and early on as a child, I didn't know it could be connected to anything in life. It was just something that I enjoyed doing. And really, until I met John Scott at Xavier, I was a student in his design class in 1967, y'all. So I'm looking around this room. A number of people weren't born in 1967. But he was the first person that I met who was actually dedicating their lives to culture and creativity, and it was an incredible thing for me to see, and it gave me direction.
He was one of your major influences.
He was a major influence, and I was lucky enough to also be able to study with his teachers, who were still at Xavier at the time. So it was great,
Yeah.
and that gave me a course to take through life. Before that, I hadn't connected what I was doing to anything or any possibility of being active in the world.
Are you the only visual artist in your family? I know it's a lot of musicians there.
Well, you know, it's like lots of people in my family could draw or paint or do music, or I mean, as a people we're full of that kind of creativity. So it's not anything odd or special in my mind.
Yeah. What is special to us?
Well, okay.
It's odd too.
Yeah.
But odd is good. I love odd. Odd is beautiful. So, Baba Luther,
Yes.
can I call you Baba Luther?
You can call me Baba Luther, yeah.
Okay.
You call me that every other day.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Congo Square.
Wow. That's a long history. I think the first part of it is that the area was used by the indigenous people for their annual corn harvest rituals, and so it was sacred ground. It was an area where they were planting food. And so, as Europeans came into Louisiana, and who were all those boats that they came with? Enslaved Africans, okay? So, as they came into this area, and they brought people of African descent who they had kidnapped from Africa to come to New Orleans to help build the city out. So that's kind of like how, we got here, in that way as well. And so one thing was, that even with the way the Europeans were, people didn't have to work on Sundays or holy days of obligation. And so what would happen on Sundays is that people of African descent, they would like walk to Congo Square, which was really just about 6 blocks from the river. And so they would gather on Sundays and drum, dance, plot what they're gonna do, really see how they're gonna make this, how they're gonna work with this land up. And so I think that's really how the openings of coming on Congo Square began. And even to this day, you just see I mean, even if you're looking at, I mean, even like on the news just this past week, you know how after Hurricane Katrina, the theaters, but the big building in Congo Square was really hurt. It really couldn't be used. So now the city has agreed to bring it back as what it was, and now they're going to make the whole park a place of our culture. And I think that's going to be a beautiful outcome of what all has been going on for all these years.
Is that part of the Congo Square Preservation Society? Is that part of their works?
Well, yeah, we're part of it as well.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, like, you know, that park is so big, and so, I mean, how many of y'all have not come to Congo Square? Okay, well, come out of downstairs on 3 o'clock. We'll give you the walk around, okay? So, you know, so I think that's really it's really a great time for us to really take our city back and really help our young people, like the city young people right here in this front area. Ron, I know you guys are in great hands, my brother. But you know, the question is, where do we go from here for our people, you know, so we can have an economy? And I think that's really, and another thing is always to find out from a young person, it's always the thing of a young person to ask someone older, what do you think my gift is? And so it's good for like a child to ask their parent, their friends, their teacher, because we need young people need to be able to say, I see something in you. I really see this in you all the time. You should really maybe pursue. Here's a book. Read this book. And I think that's kind of like something that's really part of our responsibility as elders in our community.
Did you have someone like that was that for you?
Yes, I did.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what direction did they say for you?
Of course, this is in Chicago now.
Oh, it's in Chicago. Okay.
It's the same thing, but you know. But I guess a lot of times we listen to sports around sports or something. With guys, you know, we play sports. So that was kind of, with me, I like to play sports. But then my father was a musician. So then I started really to find out more about what he was doing. And I asked him to buy me a Congo drum for Christmas. And my family said, why in the world did you do that? So that's kind of how I got on the road towards this path.
And how do you think that, that Congo Square was a catalyst for your musicianship? Do you think that it would serve as a foundation?
Yeah, that's why I have a group called Bambula 2000. Because the word Bambula means to honor your hand. The word Bambula, there's a rhythm called the Bambula. Anybody know how does the Bambula rhythm go? Anybody know? So when we do the second line, we're really doing the bambula that comes from the Congo. So what we do is the second line really comes out of the Congo. And so that's where the bambula comes from, and that's why I have a group. But I think that's why the rhythm of New Orleans is the bambula rhythm. It's like, you know, everybody, all this is New Orleans, you know, so that's kind of where it came from.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Okay.
So Mark, this is John Scott created works of art influenced by circle dance. How many circles show up in your art? Or do circles show up as an influence in your art, and what might they represent to you?
Absolutely, the circle represents everything. And I certainly, I mean, it's no beginning, no end, it's connectedness, it's everything flowing into everything else. I mean, yeah, it's, if you look at my work, the body of my work, you see circles, absolutely. And I think that, of course, that influence comes from Scott and further from what I like to call the Xavier School. Because I think that understanding the history of that art department, there were a number of people who really produced some great things, and a lot of it had to do with a nun named Lorena Neely, who was one of the Blessed Sacrament nuns. She studied art at Catholic University at the same time that Jane Driscoll was there. And she brought back, she did ecclesiastical sculpture, being a nun, Catholic, right, church sculpture, but she infused it with all of the latest modernist ideas that were being put out during those times. And she brought that back to Xavier, taught it to her students, people like John Scott, and she created a guild system for her students. And this guild system allowed those students to create and compete for commissions. And so they were executing, as juniors and seniors in the art department, they were executing major commissions for churches throughout the southeastern part of this country.
Were you able to be a part of that?
Well, no, that was before my time. That was in the...
Before 1967, was it?
That was before my time, but I'm saying that to say that there is, in my mind, a Xavier School that's palpable, that's visually palpable. You can recognize it in the work of people like John Scott and Ted Jones and many other people who were at that school. Yeah. And I'm one of Frank Hayden, and I'm one of them.
So John Scott said appeared to be like in like another world, like another place when he was creating. He was physically present, but he was taken somewhere else, so to speak. This sometimes is referred to as a flow state. So can you speak of an instance which you remember John Scott being in that flow state?
Well, certainly while we were working on, I had the privilege of working with him on Spirit House, sculpture, they say circle. And a number of things, when you're doing a public commission, sometimes things get out of your hands because there are a number of people who are responsible for what happens in that situation, like the City Planning Commission, for example. So there was a plan to make a sculpture that was to sit on the ground. If people who have seen Spirit House know that it has these curved legs, and it was supposed to sit on the ground on those. But the City Planning Commission said that was climbable, and so that made it a public nuisance. So Scott didn't throw the idea out, he simply intuited a way of getting around that. He said, let's lift it on 6-foot-high pylons, which means that now it's not climbable. Right? So that's getting around the City Commission, right? In a way that's healthy, in a way that works, but in a way that also contributed to the sculpture, because now it's not simply sitting on the ground, it's raised and it's literally a cathedral that you can walk into and under and experience it from a whole nother level. So to understand that obstacles are actually directions for us. Yeah.
And then the beauty in that is trying to figure out those obstacles and how to make it happen, because it still can happen. Exactly. Instead of just giving up and being like, okay, we can't do it. Let's figure out how we can do it.
Exactly.
Because it's important.
The obstacle is simply a direction.
So Martin, I see that John Scott uses a lot of different mediums. Are you in that same, are you saying you that same kind of dude?
No, I'm not.
What's your medium of choice?
Well, I began trying to paint because I thought that's what art meant. And I wasn't a very good painter because I didn't understand until I started making sculpture that a painting is a construction as well. So I was kind of pushing things around, not understanding what painting was actually about. When I got to steel, it forced me, steel is a material that that punches back. And Steele says, you know, understand what I want to do, or understand how you can give me directions to do what you want me to do, right? And so
You're not the boss.
You're not the boss. You're participating in this. So that was my salvation, to understand that I was participating in something. I wasn't making it all by myself. And I just sort of fell in love.
But metalwork, like what gravitated you to that specifically? I mean, it could have been wood.
I like the immediacy. I like the immediacy of it. You can, if you're welding, you can make something happen pretty fast. And if you don't like the results, you can cut it apart and start again. So it's a really forgiving medium, unlike something like, say, watercolor, where once you go muddy, you're done.
Yeah.
So my particular personality simply vibed well with the steel and metalworking, and
Well, it shows.
that's where I'm today.
You're a man of metal. So would that be considered a blacksmith or what? No, not really.
Well,
because it's artistry and blacksmith.
Well, absolutely. But in my mind, when you say blacksmith, I think about someone like Norbert Revere, who was a blacksmith here in New Orleans and a welder. And he created the vacuum pan, which allowed the sugar refinery business to kick off. And so without that, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have this sugar industry that we enjoy today, right? So there are many examples like that. Yeah.
Can you tell us what it's like when you get into this flow state, like this space of like,
I never walked into the studio thinking, I'm going to make a this, ever. I guess coming from a musical family, I really gravitate toward trying to bring what they did and do into what I'm doing. And for me, that boils down to a single word, and that's improvisation. Right, so I'm there to look around at what I have. I'm working with scrap steel. I'm looking at these shapes, and I'm excited by some of the shapes, and I try to put them together in different ways, and I follow what happens.
yeah,
You know.
that's right. That's literally fire, because you gotta use fire. Babulinda, what can you speak to tell us of how, when you get in the flow state, like at that point when you're in the drum circuit or when you're with Babula 2000, that point where you just feel that flow state, like you're in it, like what is that like for you?
Oh. So drumming is like this. Everybody in the room, take your right hand, put it over your left part of your chest. And what do you feel?
Heartbeat. Hopefully.
Who has, okay, if you feel your heartbeat, raise your hand. Okay, put your hands down. If you don't feel your heartbeat, that's called 911. So I think, that the whole thing about me being a drummer is all about time. It's about boom. And like New Orleans, like you said, like the bamboo comes from the Congo, that means to honor your ancestors. So this brother named Chief Bay, he came to New Orleans, about 20, 30 years ago. And so we asked him about the bamboo. He said, well, yeah, that's love-making music. Yeah. So I said, well, how does it go? He said, it goes like this. Boom, 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 said, man, that's the second line. So when we would, you know, we didn't really realize we were playing the bamboo rhythm from the Congo, but we call it the second line. So it's just amazing how our culture travels like that, you know. But like it's in the music, and so being drummers, that's what we're all about. Is that it's coming up with these rhythms. How many of y'all are hip hop people?
Yeah.
See, I mean, it's the same thing. How many of y'all got rhymes? You coming up with lyrics? How many of y'all doing that?
Yeah.
That's good. Keep it coming. But the thing about it is, let's make it positive. Let's make it something positive that can inspire yourselves and your generation. Not something that denigrates anybody or puts anybody down. Let's lift our people up. And you know, the studio B, that's everything you see in studio B. If you go to this space, everything you see in here is positive like this. This is like a Mecca right up in this. This is just amazing. Thank you so much for inviting us.
That's amazing. I didn't invite you. But I would have invited you if I didn't invite you to. But that's interesting.
Thank you so much for
inviting
inviting me.
It's all saying yes. And rhythm is everything.
Yes.
Rhythm is in everything. If you're walking down the street, there's a rhythm to that. You know, when you're speaking, there's a rhythm to that. When you're breathing, there's a rhythm to that. I mean, whatever it is that you're doing, there's a rhythm to it. If you're cooking, if you're whipping up that, there's a rhythm to everything.
Yeah.
There's a rhythm to everything, and I feel like all of the arts are alternate languages. Alternate languages. We can't say everything that we need to say with words. Sometimes it has to be said visually. Sometimes it has to be said with movement. Sometimes it has to be said with sound. I remember talking to my brother. He mentioned Nicholas, but his brother Walter, his dad Walter was my brother. I remember Walter and I would have lots of conversations about the relationship that exists between these arts that we talk about. And we saw that in visual art, you have a circular arrangement of colors and dark and light. And what do we call that? Color. The color wheel, right? In music, you've got a circular arrangement of notes, right? And what do we call that? The circle of fifths. And he and I would have many conversations about that, or how there were opposites in both of those circles, and how there were analogous notes and analogous colors in both of those circles.
So when people say they see colors when they hear music, like that's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It makes sense. And then we're back at that circle, that whole circle idea.
It's a real thing. And we had arguments, and sometimes come to arguments, I'd say, well, what was the first language? I think it was visual. And you look at me and say, no, it was sound. You know, but then you have major and minor chords,
Yeah.
and they do different things to us.
That's just as different colors.
So all of
Very
this is
different
connected.
emotion. Yeah. That's interesting.
Back to that circle.
Back to that circle. And I'm gonna circle back because Baba Lucas said something. And he said the guy, I'm sorry, because I don't want to disrespect the man or fellow that said second line music was love making music. I ain't never seen nobody making love on the second line. Interesting, though. But I get it. I just want to make it sure we circle back to that. Don't think of it differently. I just had that thought in my mind.
What's your question? I'm kind of hard of hearing. You gotta tell me twice. Hard.
No. I'm a little hard of hearing too. Hard-headed too. So as we're connected, as we're talking about connecting and the flow of things and moving in that flow, how am I connected to your ancestors' view, your art, and your music? How does that? Do you have certain moments, or do you have certain rituals that you might do before you do a performance, or something you think of, or is there an energy or power that you feel from another realm, from this realm?
Well, definitely inside of music and inside of rhythm, there's language and there's, I think like, it's hard for me to explain it. I would just say in terms of music, it's like, once again, like, what are you feeling? Like, like what I noticed when I came in this building, I started saying, wow, John Scott, I mean, everything, he's showing the relationship between art and Africa. And so, when you really look at New Orleans so much, a lot of what we do, we really don't really think it's so much it's related to Africa. But like you say, New Orleans is like the Indians, the indigenous people, people of African people, and of course Europeans as well. And I think that we in a time in New Orleans where really, also with hip hop, it's very important that hip hop really has the kind of messages inside of it that is good for the healing of people. And I think, when we go to Congo Square, so like, I think we started at Congo Square, let's check this out. We had gotten like a grant, Bambula 2000 at that time. We had a grant, we had a grant to do drum workshops in Congo Square for 4 Saturdays. So after the 4th Saturday, people were saying, we said, well, thank y'all for coming. I said, y'all ain't coming back here next week? We said, well, you want to come here? Well, we're going to be here next week. Y'all coming next week? So then it was like, wow. So we started coming back every week. And so then we noticed that the park wasn't cleaned up too good. So we called Park and Parkways, this elderly lady who was in charge at the time. She said, well, we just called because, the park is not being kept. She said, well, would you like to adopt the park? He said, we can adopt the park? She said, yeah. So that's how we started coming to Congo Square Preservation Society. So we started cleaning up on Saturdays, drumming on Saturdays, and so that's really how things began now to today, is that we didn't really always know what we were doing, but we just kind of knew we wanted to do something, I don't know if that answers your question.
That's the thing. That was great.
Yeah.
But y'all moved it to Sundays from Saturdays.
Huh?
It started on Saturdays, but y'all moved it to
We
Sundays.
started on Saturday and moved to Sunday, right?
Yeah, yeah. Are there any visual artists, Babalunda, and any visual artists that have influenced your music that you do?
That's right.
Yeah, or visual artists.
This man right here, that man over there, I look around all these visual artists, see my son sitting over there in the corner. I mean, New Orleans is just a city of creative geniuses. My God. I mean, this city is amazing, man. I can think, what I really like, something happened this past week in the city, Tampa City, the city said, okay, y'all can have the municipal auditorium back. You know what that's going to unleash in this city if we do the right thing? In this city, if we have that much, if we can really have that much control of our art, our culture, and have spaces, and have businesses, and then how did that spread, even further for what you're doing in your part of the world over there, up there 2 blocks away from the best high school a kid could go to if they're creative, you know what I'm saying? So I think we're at a crossroad. And so I think that's kind of where I just have to keep going back to that, because that's really what I think the time that we're in.
Yeah. So Martin, you talk about your brother and your nephew. Do you find them to be musical influences in your art, or are there any other musicians that specifically, or do you play music when you create?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm always listening, because I'm always listening because that's the root of our culture. it's so important. I mean, people know New Orleans because of what Sidney Bechet, Louis Armstrong, and Mahalia Jackson, and those people did. So absolutely, yeah. The musicians kept those chants and hollers and all of that information from Africa, whereas writers and visual artists sometimes let that stuff go, but the musicians held on to it. And so they remained, for me, the wellspring where we need to go to feed ourselves. Yeah.
You go out and listen to live music?
Absolutely.
Who you go see?
I go see Nicholas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are many musicians that I enjoy hearing and listening to. So
Yeah.
that's a real important part of it for me.
Then you play music while you work?
When you say play music, you mean turn the radio?
They turn the radio on. I mean, you can play music while you work too. I like to see that
He
actually.
plays drums, he plays
Are
drums.
you serious?
Well, they let me sit in with them.
So you play? Oh, you play the
Djembe.
djembe and stuff. Well, I do this. It's on my hand. You know what I'm talking about. You play djembe?
Absolutely.
So do you take a moment, because the djembe has like a real kind of spiritual thing to it too.
Well, yeah.
So when you hitting that drum, that skin, that sound coming from that wood, that's a serious sound. Do you ever take time to like play that and kind of like bring in spirits before you start that project?
Well, no, not in that way. I don't use it in that way. It's an inspiration for me. I think of the work that musicians that I respect, like Luther here, put into their craft, and I know that I'm not going to do that 10,000 hours. So I'm just I'm just there sort of entertaining myself and really feeling great about being in the middle of that glorious sound.
Yeah.
From the djembes and the dununs and all of those.
What is your work? Where can we see?
Well, I mean, my work's around. I've got work around the city.
Everywhere.
Pardon me?
Everywhere.
Well, not everywhere. I think the show is still up at the Contemporary Art Center now, isn't it? The photography show. So
Oh, you know what?
I have a couple of sculptures in the
Wait, where is it? Where is it?
At the Contemporary Art Center.
At the CAC.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it?
At the Ogden.
At the Ogden?
The Ogden has
Okay.
work. I have work in the collection at the Ogden.
So now y'all can say
Jones, yeah.
Stella Jones, y'all saw Martin Payton, the artist of live and personal in person. That's pretty cool.
I'm still breathing, yeah.
Yeah. You still making work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm still breathing.
Till the day you die.
Till the day I die.
You ever burned your hands?
Do I have what?
Have you ever burned your hands?
I burned my hands, I burned my eyes, I burned my head. Yeah.
You ever burned your hair? Yeah.
Well, I'm not having to do that these days. That stuff's going away by itself.
No, you're doing great. You got some good hair up there.
Okay.
Hey, see some people with yeah, you're doing great, man. Yeah. Is there anything you want to share with people that are all sitting there watching the convention?
Well, I think it's wonderful to have this many folk here participating in this, but second, as I look around this room, almost everybody in this room is involved in some form of the arts here. So we're really speaking to the choir.
Yeah, we have a new generation of the choir.
Yeah,
That,
the new generation, and they're being well, they're being well mentored here.
What advice would you give them as young and up-and-coming artists?
Well, my advice would be to use your youth well. Use your youth well. Do not put it off and say, well, I'm going to wait until I have this much money, or I'm going to wait until I have this kind of studio, or I'm going to wait until I have, this kind of time, or any of that. The only time you have is now. And one of the things that I feel really good about at my age is that when I was your age, I was busy trying to hit some licks and continuing that, because one day you're going to be this age. I mean, who was it that said this? What you are, I once was.
Yeah.
What I am, you shall become.
Right.
Right? So that's a kind of memento mori, right? So it's that important. What are you doing with this time? Because one day you're going to be this age, and will you be able to look back on time spent well, developing your craft, developing yourself as a human, producing work that's beneficial to yourself and to your community, or not? So, yeah.
What advice would you give them? Because I know certain times in artists
Advice is to work.
Yeah. But some certain times you're just like, I can't even, I don't even
Get
know
off
what.
your ass and work. That's the advice. That's the advice. And you don't always feel like it. You don't always feel like it. Get up and go do the work.
Do you have any kind of like practice routine or something that you do like daily that kind of motivates you to get started?
No, I know what motivates me is that I understand my own mortality. And I know that I don't have more time than my lifespan, right? That's going to end. So I need to be busy while I'm breathing. Yeah. Or I'm telling a lie.
You got that? What about you?
What'd you say?
What about you? Do you have any like, at this point as the musician that you are, the well-renowned musician that you are, and how long you've been playing, and you've been teaching kids drumming, you teach community drumming, you teach everybody how to drum. Do you have any practices that you do, or any rituals that you have that, kind of get you ready to play, or like when you're getting ready to do Jazz Fest, it's a certain kind of thing that you do? Is it, how do you get that?
Yeah, I do. I really like, drumming is really good, but I really also like to write lyrics. So write lyrics to drumming and things like that. So I think that as well. And but another thing is that I kind of like, I guess it's really kind of like very, I can't even predict it always, I think when I walked in this door here, and I walked around all the art and all the visual, what it started to do in my mind was I started thinking about music. I'm like, wow, well, look at that. Oh, look at the rhythm, like, wow, what he's doing is African, it's New Orleans, man. I gotta go and I gotta share. I got some more work to do. So I think the main thing is like to be around people who can inspire you. And so that the invitation is out here for everybody here. We drum on Sundays from 3 to 6. We got drums. Get on your bike. He comes through on his bike. People come to any kind of way they can get there. And come join us. We'll get you a drum. We have dancers out there. And you pull up with a whole bus full of He came in there one Sunday. Who was that filmmaker that you came with one Sunday, man? Who was that?
Oh,
Who was that? Who's that?
Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg! He came in there one Sunday. Man, that's Steven Spielberg! Oh, man.
Babaluka,
Yeah.
I got one more question for you.
Okay.
You spoke a lot about hip-hop music. Do you secretly want to be a hip-hop? Because we can make that happen.
I sure would like to be.
See?
I sure would.
It's never too late for it. Never too late for it. We can start a cipher right here.
Uh-oh.
I know a couple people beatbox.
Wow.
Wow.
With the wild bamboozlers,
Hey.
and I go Hunaya. Wake up, Mr. Bamboo Holiday. We've been together for many years. Wild bamboola. We have us fun and shed some tears. Wild bamboola. We come out of Congo Square. Wild bamboola. Every Sunday you find us there. Wild bamboola. We got the drums and we got the dance. Wild bamboola. Then put you in a healing trance. Wild bamboola. They say we're wild because we're free. Wild bamboola. They say we're showing our history. Wild bamboola. African Caribbean and New Orleans. Wild bamboola. We got the prettiest queens that you've ever seen. Wild bamboola.
Said them turn it on.
All right.
Don't turn it on. All right, your turn.
We're gonna sit down and he's gonna have one next time we see him.
Next time. I'm here for that. So, do you have anything you'd like to add as we begin to wrap it up and start opening up for some questions?
I'm just so thankful to be here in this beautiful space. Your family is really, this family, this creative family, look what they've done in this city. And look how many people they've inspired. And so the city, really, man, this city is really ours. And it's really coming in our hands. And that, it doesn't happen very often, does it? So I think that we're in a really great space. Like, once again, young people, talk to your elders, speak to someone who you really think they got some good advice for you, and help you get on a path, and whatever you need to make what you do come into fruition. That's the best thing I can say to anybody. Thank y'all.
That's not another artist in the city. I don't think there's another artist in the city that has something like this happening for them. And there's no more deserving artist in the city than John Scott. And I know that this happened because he put in 14-hour days in the studio for years and years and years and years and years. It didn't happen because somebody liked the way he looked or any of that kind of stuff. It was that he put in the work. So if you want the success, if you want the oomph, if you want the punch, put in the work.
Martin Payton. This beautiful poster here is a John Scott poster from Congo Square. It kind of goes with everything that we're saying, the colors, the circles, the people dancing, it incorporates everything. And we just talked about it. That's super dope.
Yeah.
So we're gonna open the floor. Yes.
Hello. I am Santana Reed. Your T-Bag got a quote on it?
Who does it? Good question.
It does?
The plants have enough spirit to transform our limited vision. Here, you can have it. That's an artist right there, looking at all of the things that you got.
Here.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd like to say, where can we see your work?
I am actually releasing my new album this summer, July 23rd, which is my birthday. I made 20 this year. Why you laughing? Yeah, so that's what's happening. I play every Wednesday at the Duke Drop, but I play percussions with the band that's there. It's a fun night though, it's an open mic night. Y'all should come through if you want to hear like old school R&B, just want to dance and chill out. We have a lot of fun. But yeah, my name is Kelly Love Jones. So you look me up, I don't have anything outside of the album. I've been really focused on that. But I'm on social media, and when I do stuff, I'll put it up there, so you come see it. Any other questions?
Martin, I don't know if you were around for the woodcut work, but if you were, could you describe the process, how difficult it was, how long it took?
Well, Scott had, I know that he had special tools. I mean, he used an angle grinder, and he had a special tool made to put on an angle grinder to make those marks, to make those gouges. And as I said before, you could walk into that studio at any time and you'd find him at work. And when I said 14-hour days, I wasn't overstating. I wasn't overstating. I mean, that was for real. That was for real. So it's hard to say. I mean, it wasn't like he said, "Well, I'm going to make one of these." I mean, there were many of them going at once.
Yeah.
You know, and there were other things happening as well. So Scott was a worker. He was a worker, and time just didn't play a part in it.
I got a question for you. Do you think when you find like your thing, like that takes the time, right? Like you figure out and you say, okay, no, I figured out what exactly it is my lane. How did you come to that process of that?
Well, that process happened in a lot of ways. I tell this joke often about being around Scott. You know, it's kind of like being around a black hole. You know?
Black hole.
Yeah, like the one at the center.
I want to make sure I heard what you said, right?
The one at the center of our galaxy.
Okay, got it.
So if you get too close, you get sucked in, and you don't get out. So a lot of times, I sort of came to my maturity as an artist alongside John Scott and Clifton Webb. And there were two people who were extremely elaborate in the work that they did. So a part of it was that my personality wasn't that, but another part of it was that I realized, hey, if these guys are going in that direction, I'm going to make a 180-degree turn and go in the other, so that I can find my own sort of authentic deal, as opposed to following.
Was there somebody that you, or was it John Scott, was somebody that you admired, that you showed them your work and was like, look what I did, like, I made this, what do you think? Oh, you always just like, I did that. Yeah, I just want to know.
No, that wasn't it. I think what I got from what Scott did was he wanted us to learn technique. He wanted to teach us a language that we could then use for ourselves. So this is metal casting. So let's look at metal casting. Let's study metallurgy and understand how all of that works. And now you have that in your basket. And over here is printmaking. So let's look at that. Let's look at the different kinds of printmaking that there's. And let's study that, so you've got that in your basket. And here's drawing, and here's welding, right? So he taught those techniques, and then left it to you to decide how you're going to use them. Yeah.
That's me. Any other questions? One more. Well, we got one more question. Somebody ask me.
Lucy, you said you asked your dad for one of the drums, but do you remember how old you were and like what led you to ask for that gift?
Good question. She says, when you were younger, they wanted you into sports and stuff, but you asked for a drum. What age was that, and why did you ask for it?
I think I don't remember exactly my age. I mean, when I was, for some people my age, they had like a silver robust little catalog where you look through it, and they had toys and stuff. So I saw like a maraca bongo set. I said, what got for Christmas? So that's how I got my first toy. And so then I think later on I had a job. I got a job in a restaurant in the summer. I asked my dad to take me to a music store. I got my first Congo drum. And so I would like do my homework. That was my desk. I would do homework on the desk, on the drum. Till the song come on, I listened to the radio. So I put it down, I play the music, put it back, and I play some more. So my family, good thing my father was a musician. Otherwise, this would drive my whole family crazy. So that's kind of really how I got to it,
Oh. I gotta remember, I'm old too, I gotta remember what I was thinking. Okay, so I noticed that Scott's art is very colorful, and yours isn't. So it's like he seemed like he was very influenced by color, just very vibrant color. So when you were talking about going in your other direction, was that part of it? Like, because when you did collaborate, it was just one color, but very bright color for the Spirit House. So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering why you don't do color, and now I guess.
Well, I painted, for many years I painted my sculptures, but it was always a single color. And the reason for that is I'm coming from a drawing and painting sensibility. So, and I think I'm still drawing, but drawing in actual space. And so I feel that if I put a ton of different colors on what I'm doing, it'll break up the form. And my work really communicates through silhouette. So that single color, I feel, carries. Got some.
We got time for a couple more questions.
Good evening, Barbara Wintham. It's good to see you. Martin, I have a question for you. Would you talk about the Agno Rivers exhibit that happened at the World's Fair?
Take me back.
Yeah. Scott designed a pavilion for the World's Fair called Diving on the Rivers. And I can still remember putting that, I can still remember working on that. It was an incredible encapsulation of Black history and culture held in a single space. I don't know how many people here actually saw that and went through it, but it had everything from the Middle Passage to Louis Armstrong's first trumpet to, the facade of that structure was just amazing. It was all of the names of all of the people who were important and all the aspects of our history that were important spilled across that facade. The Middle Passage not only had chains, it had sound in it. were immersed in our culture. And I learned so much of our history by participating in that, and got to handle so many wonderful pieces of art, because we were actually able to bring things in that borrowed pieces of work that never would have been able to see before. I remember Forever Free, the marble sculpture by Monia Lewis, getting the handle work like that. I mean, you know, that was just an incredible experience for me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Great questions, y'all. We want to thank y'all so much for being here with us this evening. Speaking of things, speaking of passing on, which is talked about just then, passing on is happening here Saturday. Open mic. So, Bobby gonna come and do freestyle. It's possible, you never know. I'm just saying. But it's open mic on Saturday. Make sure you come. We're gonna be drumming.
We'll be drumming. We'll have a featured poet Saturday night is Mona Lisa Saloy, last year's poet laureate for the state. We always got a good lineup to pass on in terms of the poetry, but there will be poetry, music, and artwork by some folks who are here, some folks who are not, as well as what's already here. Looking forward to the drum circle or whatever the musical. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm looking forward.
So bring your drum, huh? Everybody
Yeah,
bring your drum.
bring one. Sure.
That's here. That's here.
Saturday.
Yeah. Saturday at 6.
6, yeah.
I think it's at 6. Yeah. So this Saturday. Yeah. Yeah, but tomorrow. Yeah. See, I ain't got nothing to do this Saturday. Now I ain't got something to do this Saturday. All right.
That's here?
That's it. You coming?
Yeah, I want y'all to come, definitely.
He'll do a freestyle class.
So I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate you guys also not sitting in the corners. So this is a part of Scott Fest. This is the kickoff of Scott Fest, which is a very informal thing that every year we talk about how informal it is. When Dad passed away, we decided that we needed to still gather and create work in his honor in the spirit of getting together and sharing time and space and making work. This is the 17th year that we've done that. And this year is a bit of a departure from how we've done things in the past. While this year we're focusing on music, sound, and visual art, and sort of the overlap or intersections thereof, which is kind of why we're having musicians and visual artists speak, and a point of departure being something like Congo Square. But our experimentation tomorrow and Saturday will be largely based around music and creating musical instruments. It's a whole bunch of visual artists who don't necessarily make a lot of music, so I'm kind of curious as to what direction this should go. What am I leaving out?
We're going to spend 2 days. So the first day will be ideation and experimentation. It's a scientific thing to have sound. And so if you haven't thought about a guitar, where does the sound come from, right? What's the wood, is the kind of wood on a drum, the kind of wood, the kind of skin that's stretched across the top, how you hit it all make different notes and keys and whatnot. So not being a musician and not necessarily having thought about this science tied to music, what's it going to be like to take some random objects and then shift them, manipulate them to make sounds with? So then that's like the scientific part of it. And then on Saturday, we're going to refine a lot of that and then add aesthetics to it if they're not already built into it. So it'll be a whole lot of, I don't know what's going to happen. And then, okay, well, you know, this is pretty cool because I haven't thought about this thing in this way, but really it's all tied together and his visual of how that thing ties together. That's what we're working on, and you're welcome to come out.
So the time is?
We're going to do both days, 9:30 to about 5:30. And we usually build in lunch on at least one of those days, and then the other day we might split up and, you know, separate, but it'll all be at Xavier both days, and then we come back for the Pass It On event on Saturday night. So we'll be around each other, cracking lots of jokes for 2 days.
What cross streets?
I don't know.
Art department, the art village, the art village. The art village.
Put it to the Northwest Art Village, and it will give you the directions to the art village.
That's actually on Pine Street and Lower Line.
There you go.
All right, y'all, thank y'all so much for being here. Give it up for our guests.
Really quick, you all, thank you again to our esteemed panel. Thank you all for joining us here at the John Scott Center. We hope to see you again. An exciting announcement in September. For the past couple of years, Miss Anna Rita Scott and Miss Freddie Evans have been working really, really hard to write a book. And the book is about to be released in September, Passing On the Art of John Scott. Io did our cover for us, and we are all very excited that this will be out to the public, and it will roll out in September. So be on the lookout for pre-orders and things of that nature. We'll have book signings, book blessings, readings at the schools in the Orleans Parish, donating them to libraries. We want every child in this city to be able to turn the pages of this book and learn about Mr. John Scott and bring them back to the center. So once again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.